Judge sentences veteran to jail. Hours later, he unexpectedly shows up at his cell. I believe that the prison system should be there to rehabilitate people. Of course, if someone breaks the law, they need to face the consequences, but I think we all benefit from having a little understanding in certain cases. Judge Lou Olivera is a walking example of this. He's a former veteran who believes in actions having consequences, but he also goes above and beyond to show compassion to the people he comes in contact with during some of their darkest hours. When he sentenced Joe Serna to a night in jail for breaching his probation, he was adamant that Joe should be held accountable for his actions. But when Judge Olivera left the courtroom, he did something unexpected, and his actions have moved people around the world. A few years ago, Joe Serna was arrested for drunk driving. At the time, he was given probation, and one condition of that is that he wasn't allowed to drink. But when he recently appeared in Fayetteville County Courthouse, he lied about his recent drinking habits. When a urine test proved that he had consumed alcohol, Judge Olivera was adamant that Joe had to be held accountable. But unlike most people in the courtroom, the judge knew Joe's history, and there was no way he was going to turn his back on the man once his day in court was over. Joe Serna is a retired Army sergeant who served 3 tours in Afghanistan. He's received 3 Purple Hearts for his service. The sergeant survived several armed attacks and a suicide bomber during his tours. But there's one day that he'll never forget. He describes how he was traveling in a truck with 3 fellow soldiers when tragedy struck. The road gave way and the vehicle went under the creek. He tells CBS Evening News, all hope was lost. The 4 soldiers were stuck in the truck as the water slowly rised. Eventually, it stopped at Joe's chin. He was the only man to make it out of the truck alive. Since the tragedy, Joe has suffered from PTSD. He's terrified of small spaces. When I walked into the jail cell and they closed the door behind me, I started feeling this anxiety, he says. Judge Olivera, who is also a veteran, knew Joe's history and wasn't prepared to let him face his night in jail alone. I knew what Joe was going through, and I knew Joe's history, Judge Olivera told CBS Evening News. He had to be held accountable, but I just felt I had to go with him. So just a few minutes after Joe was locked up, Judge Olivera joined him. He stayed with Joe for the whole night and says, "We ate meatloaf and talked about a lot of things." Joe describes how the judge's presence allowed him to lose the feeling that he was trapped. The walls didn't exist anymore, he says. He brought me back to North Carolina from being in a truck in Afghanistan. Judge Olivera's kind gesture had a huge impact on Joe. After serving his night in jail, Joe has promised the judge he'll never drink again. To me, Judge Olivera is a true reflection of what the justice system should look like. We should all try to have more compassion for our fellow man, and especially support our veterans who've given so much. Share this story if you agree.